Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to look at Heads Up, a party game for 2 to 6 players for ages 8 and up, with the average playtime being about 30 minutes, but you can play as long as you want. This game was featured on the Ellen DeGeneres show, and it started as an app. Just to quickly show you what this game is like on the app version, it's available I think on both Android and iOS devices, but one player will hold the phone up to their head like this. And the other players will see the screen, see a word on the screen, and will try to give this player clues as to what is on the screen. If the person holding up the phone can guess that word correctly, they flip the phone up to score a point, down to pass if they can't guess it. They can keep guessing as long as they want to, but if they decide to pass, they can flip the phone down and move on to the next word. The tabletop version of the game is similar to that, and some of you have already probably made similarities or connections between this game and charades, only this is sort of like reverse charades. Instead of one person trying to act out a word to everyone else, everyone else already knows the word and are trying to give one player clues and so that they can guess it. So again, it's sort of like reverse charades. So let's quickly take a look at what came in the box and how the game is played. Okay, and here's a quick snapshot of the components. The box isn't included. I can show you that real quick. Instead of a standard box, I mean, as you can see, it is a box, but it does flip open, sort of like a pizza box does. So it has that, and there's the insert inside there. But anyway, getting to this, you've got some components here. You've got this winning chips box, and inside this box contains a bunch of these blue tokens. Very, very cheapy plastic, if I may say so. Nothing like, poker chips or anything like that. But it serves its purpose. You've got a sand timer here. You've got 6 of these headbands. Each player will get one, and I'll explain their function in a bit. It's sort of similar to what I was doing with electronic devices, except these will go around players' heads, and you'll be sliding these cards into them. But as far as these cards are concerned, there are 200 cards spread across 4 different categories, so that's about 50 cards per deck. And basically, whenever these cards are drawn for a particular turn or a particular round, you'll have to observe their special rules. And the instruction manual here will tell you what rules and what challenges are available for that particular deck. Now, in order to set up the game, each player will go ahead and put on one of these headbands with the logo facing forward. The logo is on this side, and as you can see, that it's sort of like a baseball cap in the back. You just simply snap the little pegs into their respective holes, and you can tighten it or loosen it depending on how big your head actually is. If you're Hulk, for example, or Brain from Pinky and the Brain Animaniacs, you might have to loosen it all the way back here, but you get the idea. So with each player wearing one of these things, what they'll do is they'll shuffle up each deck individually and put them in the center of the table. You've got this sand timer here and this pile of chips. Obviously, these guys do not come with the game. They're just going to help me out for illustration purposes. In order to start off the game, one player will be chosen to go first. And what they'll do is they'll choose one of these 4 decks and then draw 6 cards from that deck and slide them into their headband. Now, they'll need to make sure that when they're doing this that they keep the top side facing them so that they can't see what is on the reverse side. On these cards, there are 2 words or 2 phrases listed that they'll be trying to guess. So in this particular case, you've got the headband logo, and the person then would be facing this way. So the player will be drawing these cards and then sliding the cards into their headband like so until they have 6 of them. When they're ready, they'll go ahead and flip over the sand timer to begin their turn. Okay, now before I move on, I just want to quickly note that the guesser has the option before they begin to use either the normal rule set or the challenge rule set. And like I was saying, the manual lists the rules for each category. In the case of the Hey Mr. DJ rule set, normal play says hum or whistle the song as your clue. No singing or talking aloud. So the other players will be allowed to hum or whistle the song as the clue. In challenge play, however, the guesser must guess the song and the artist. In the case of act it out, under the normal play, act out the action or item on the card, no talking but sounds are okay, and the challenge play, try not using any sound effects. So obviously the challenge play is a little bit more difficult and limits the other players as to what they can do to give clues. But why would you want to use the challenge play? Well, the guesser may want to opt to use the challenge play because that affects how many points they score per correct word. Whenever they score, or whenever they guess a correct word on the normal rule set, they'll get 1 chip. If they happen to guess a correct word using the challenge rule set, they'll get 2 chips. Okay, just to quickly illustrate what a turn may look like, we're going to go ahead and just use these Trekkie figurines over here. We've got Dr. McCoy, Scotty, Spock, and Kirk. In fact, Spock may find this activity illogical, so he's probably going to leave, but anyway. So anyway, we've got Scotty and Kirk over here and McCoy. But anyway, let's just say that McCoy is going to be the guesser for the first round. He'll likewise draw 6 cards and insert them into his headband with the words facing away from him. He has to make sure that he's not seeing these words in the process. But let's just assume that this is the first card that players are going to look at on his headband. And they'll start with the first one. And then if he gets that right or passes, they'll work down to the next one. If he gets that right or passes, they'll move on to the next card and so on and so forth. So the first one here, having a nightmare under the acted out category. The other players will be trying to act out having a nightmare based on the rule set that was chosen by Bones here. Bones could say, I'm choosing the normal play, which says act out the action or item on the card. No talking, but sounds are okay. Challenge play says try not using any sound effects. So let's just say that Bones here decides to opt for normal play, and the other players will have to observe those rules while having a nightmare. So Kirk being Kirk, he's just going to be all over the place like this, acting out having a nightmare because that's how he acts. Scotty will be fixing the engine, and that really doesn't help with Bones at all. But anyway, so let's just assume for the moment that McCoy somehow figures out that Kirk is not having a seizure, but is in fact having a nightmare, and guesses that right. And because he's playing the normal play, he'll earn himself 1 chip. And then they'll move on to the next card, being in a parade. Let's just say that to act out a parade, they get up in a straight line and start walking across the bridge of the Enterprise, whatever. And let's just say that McCoy guesses that that's what they're doing. And of course, because they're playing a normal play, he would get a point for doing that. And because these two words on this card is now spent, the next one on the headband would be looked at, jumping on a trampoline. So Kirk's going to have to jump up and down on the trampoline, Scotty's going to have to jump up and down on the trampoline, and hopefully Bones will guess that. And this will continue until the time here runs out. And at the end of the term, he'll go ahead and just quickly tally how many points he's got. And then play will proceed to the next player using the same category. So Scotty will now be the guesser using the acted out category. Once his turn is done, Kirk will be the guesser using the same category. And that'll end the round as a whole. And then the guesser for the new round will get to go ahead and choose a new category, so they should, if they wish to. Now this will continue until the central pile of chips runs out and are distributed to players throughout the game. Once this happens, the game is over, and the player with the most chips will end up winning the game. Now before I wrap things up, there are things called illegal clues, like you can't say part of the word, and you can't break the rules that were in the manual. Like for example, if you're utilizing the challenge play on dynamic duos, challenge play says use 5 or fewer words when giving your clues. If you happen to break that rule, as trying to give the guesser some clues, then the word is forfeit and you have to pass on to the next one. And if a player happens to run out of words during their turn before the sand timer runs out, their turn automatically ends. They don't get to draw new cards. And there you have it, a very brief look at Heads Up, the tabletop game. Obviously, I didn't cover all of the rules in the manual, but this should just give you a nice general overview as far as how the game is played. The tabletop version, I have to admit, I was sort of disappointed with the number of categories in this particular version. And the electronic version, if you're using the Android, the Google Play website said that the download is free, and there are 18 categories to choose from. In the iOS version, I think the download is like 99 cents, and each additional category after that is 99 cents. So when you compare that to a $20 board game with only 4 categories, you're going to say to yourself, well, how come there aren't any more in the box? I don't know. Probably, production or manufacturing costs, I don't know. But obviously, the electronic versions have a little bit more value, I think, than the tabletop version. But some of you may not like using electronic devices or are intimidated by them, or just may want to get away from technology for a while and, play board games, which in this case, this would work. So, yeah, it's up to you. It's really based on what your preferences are. So yeah, there you have it, a quick look at Heads Up. You can check out my review at www.dadsgamingaddiction.com, or you can click on the links in the below description. That'll take you there as well. This is Vince, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.